Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 704 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Thursday, July 31st, last day of the month, 2025, and it is a bit of a gray day here at the Beaver Lodge. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A, and not with me as usual is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly, but we will have him with us on Monday, and it will be nice to be back together. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Kids and cubs, since Mr. Grizzly is not here, how is your mental health doing today? To be totally honest, mine is good overall. However, I'm a little tired. I will admit. It's been a week of short nights. And yesterday was a very busy day, of course, because my beaver sweetie is getting ready to go to Romania for a month and, making all the final preparations. And I'm helping as much as I can with that. So, yesterday was a very domestic day, making sure that there was a laundry done because packing is going to be happening today. And, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Of course, my beaver sweetie's trying to make sure that everything he needs to do before he goes is taken care of. So, yeah, I'm basically assisting in making sure that everything will be ready. And it's been some longer days, so I'm a little tired today, to be honest, but in good spirits, good mood. Little frustrated as well. Some tech issues again this morning. Apologies for the late start. Had to reboot the computer, and which means that I'm going to need to beg your indulgence for the show because all the tabs that I had open and lined up for clips and stuff for the show, so it would go smoothly. Of course, I lost all of those when I had to reboot, and there wasn't enough time to set them all up. So there will be a little bit of fumbling today. But I do beg your indulgence. I know you always grant it, but I figure I'd give you a little bit of a heads up. All right, let's look through the magic mirror and see who has joined us today. Kits and Cups, we have Kit Uncover with us. We have Kit Saucy with us, Kit Lived at M. So good morning to all of you. Kit Elaine saying good morning, everyone. Kit Carol, hello, Nona. Lovely to see you. Kit PNC Bio says good morning to everyone as well. We have Kit Cassie with us saying good day, Lodge. Good day to you and to the cowboy. We have, who else? Kit Jillian, who says good morning. Hello. And Kit Taffy G as well. Found you. Yes, indeed you did. Thank you so much for finding us. Who else do we have with us? Kit Grace. Ah, there we go. Hello. Cat W is with us, and Kit Bucky as well. It's so lovely to have you with us this morning. And see who else is here. Anybody else get in? I'm guessing that's ill today. I'm hoping it's not ill today. And then I'm reading it wrong, but it looks like ill today on my screen. But good morning to you. I hope you are not ill. Hope you are in good spirits. We have Kit Frankie here, and that is um, with some interesting personal news there. And yeah, so sorry to hear about your friend. Um, I hope that everything will ultimately be okay. Who else? Kit Mike H is here, sliding in, saying morning all. And I think I might have everyone here. Wow, lots of chat already. And Kit Tim, who slides in and says hello. Hello to you. All right, kids and cubs. One major story, of course. How can it not be the major story? The fact that the Prime Minister of Canada has joined his counterparts from France and UK in the recent statements and has announced impending recognition for the state of Palestine to be announced, I believe, at a UN meeting scheduled for September. Of course, there were some uh, caveats to that. So it wasn't necessarily the same announcement as France made or the same announcement as the UK made. Canada had its own specific little caveats around that. We'll discuss this a little. I'm not going to get in depth with it for only for two main purposes. Number one, totally transparent. I haven't had time to look into it as much as I would have needed to with all the stuff that's going on over here in terms of the preparations. So I don't really have much value added to add myself at the moment. Uh, and then, of course, as we keep on saying, as our personal caveat here, again, we're dealing with a situation that has many, many, many years of history and complexities, and not necessarily our wheelhouse and our strong point. So uh, we probably won't have that much of a hot take in terms of analysis at the moment. I usually um, my personal preference is to defer and wait when there's some big news like this that has lots of historical context, to wait a couple of days and see what's going on and get something beyond the hot take and try to listen to some people who know more about these things, brains much better than mine on this, and then sort of get an overall lay of the land and then try to bring you some analysis of our own rather than just the hot take. I know in this day of clicks in the instant on-demand world and whatnot, everybody wants the hot take right away. We're okay with being a couple of days later than everyone else with our hot take, uh, but making sure that we have one that is rooted in fact and logic, reason, that type of stuff. But we will relate a little. We will talk about it and relate some of the events, but we're we are not there yet with the level of content that we like to present with the knowledge of this and what it really changes on the ground and uh, all the various different ways that this plays out, because you can bet that this type of announcement is not only going to be about the announcement itself, but it's going to have all different types of political ramifications. And given that there's so many players that are involved in this or want to be involved in this or try to use this subject in order to advance their groups, their organizations, their causes, um, and not all players are necessarily of good faith when we're doing this. Um, it becomes a complicated story. You can take it so many ways, right? You can look at it to, what's the difference on the ground over there? You could ask, will these changes have any real any material difference into what's going on day to day um, there. You can uh, you can have the whole discussion about what this means domestically and how the various political parties and factions here in Canada will choose to spin or use this news. You can have, as Kid Uncover has let us know in the chat already and has sent me something. It seems that the President of the United States decided to stick his nose into this and said, saying that it's going to have some consequences for a trade deal with Canada. There's also bit players like, for example, that guy, um, that singer from the Christian rock singer with a interesting uh, recent past, I would say. You know, on his for some reason waging a personal crusade against Canada, taking that and trying to spin that for his own use. Um, as soon as we start talking about this issue, right, um, there's a lot of people that try to stunt or use it, to promote whatever it is, whatever message that they have, and so that's what I mean. There's like so many paths we can take this, and it gets broad very quickly, and it's um, there's a lot of what they call in French procès détention. A lot of people putting people's intentions uh, on trial, taking words that other people say and then omitting words or slightly re-editing the words and stuffing those words in the other person's mouth and then responding to what they needed that person to have said in order for what they're going to do next to work. And it gets messy, especially if you're a show like us that likes to try to bring a little bit of political literacy and try to explore a little bit uh, why certain people or groups would take certain positions and what that could mean strategically for them in a pure politics sense. Um, that has nothing to do with solving the issue on the ground for the people who are suffering, right? Uh, in some cases, some people take these issues and then run with it and do their own thing, and it becomes very clear very quickly that the last of their concerns is actually the people on the ground, right? So it's hard to see clear through all of that in fewer than 24 hours. Right, there's a lot going on. So, like I said, so we like to sometimes take a step back and have some more detail. So we'll talk about it a little bit, and we are already, but we'll have some updates as well on some various other recent stories today that we are touching, that we've been touching on over the past little while. Before we get into it, however, there's a couple of things that I wanted to mention because I had been talking about it. uh, I have been had it on my list to talk about it for a couple of days, but we just get into the show and then I go off in other directions and I haven't touched upon it. So we're a couple of days late on this, but on Monday was a big day in Canada for our Acadian population. It was the day where we commemorated Le Grand Dérangement, as we call it in French, or in English, I believe they call it the Great Upheaval. Um, and that was basically commemoration of back when in 1775, the British um, basically had a forced deportation of the Acadian people. If you're wondering why there's lots of French names in Louisiana, for example, that would be one of the reasons. So it involved the expulsion of approximately 10,000 Acadians from their homes in New France, or Nouvelle-France, primarily Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island. Many Acadians perished during the deportation due to disease, starvation, and shipwrecks, and those who survived were scattered across various locations, including the British colonies, France, and the Caribbean. Um, so it is it's an important day. It didn't get a lot of play in the news, um, and unfortunately, there are some people. Um, one comes to mind specifically. I believe a journalist. His name is David Staples, if I remember correctly. I'm just going to check here to be sure. Yep, David Staples here describes himself as a provincial and national affairs columnist for the Edmonton Journal. And, well, he decided to try to take this issue and politically do with it what a lot of people are doing with the indigenous issue when we go back and we talk about residential schools and that type of stuff. Uh, well, you have this section of what's passing these days for conservatives that say that oh, those were people in the past who did that. It's not us today, and why do we keep on going there? You're trying to make white people feel guilty. That thing that again keeps on happening in the United States that some people are trying to import here. And yeah, this David Staples guy, who apparently is a columnist, uh, as far as I'm concerned, tried to stunt on this by trying to make it a white persecution thing. Uh, and can't we just get over it for all intents and purposes because we're commemorating an event um, that was tragic and meaningful for a lot of people. This is a part of a lot of people's history. And, well, it seems that, how would I put it? Um, the call is coming a little bit inside the house here because Fred Delory, of course, as we know, as being a pundit in conservative circles specifically, um, his family has Acadian roots, Acadian background, and there was this back and forth between Fred Delory and David Staples on this matter, where you know, basically saying, not understanding why this is happening here. So Stephen Guilbeault, who's our minister of heritage, um, posted a tweet. So minister for sorry, not heritage. That was his uh, minister of Canadian identity, culture, and official languages. So this would definitely fall in his wheelhouse here. And he posted a tweet that said, "Today we remember July 28th, 1755, the day of the Great Upheaval, when Acadians were unjustly deported and uprooted from their lands. The history of the Acadian people is one of resilience and pride, and it continues to shape Canada for the better." And then you had David Staples who popped in. "This happened generations before any of us were born. Why dwell on it? Is your goal to make us all feel bad about Canada? How will that play out over time? Watch what you wish for." Right? This comment is unnecessary. It's unhelpful. Clearly playing for clicks here on the white grievance thing. And he goes, "And I'm not saying we should not study history. I study it intensively." Well, if you did, you would not be making this comment. "I am saying the political movement focused on victimhood is playing with fire, that an obsession with past wrongs will do more harm than good. The goal should be to create a nation of doers, not victims." And it's like, oh, God, girl. Commemorating something that happened is not a movement. It's just, and it's definitely not a movement focused on victimhood. It's not an obsession with past wrongs. Right? When we have Remembrance Day and we commemorate, because d- are we consider, do we call that an obsession with past wrongs or on victimhood? Oh my God, we sacrificed so much. Why? 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 We don't do that. So again, uh, I'm not sure why it is. Um, he unhinged his jaw in order to make this comment, but he felt he needed to insert himself in this discussion. Um, and then, well, Fred Delory uh, was not particularly impressed with that. And he says, "Oh, buddy, Acadians are doers, not victims. We rebuild after being exiled. Remembering that isn't weakness, it's strength. This is all part of our story. Stop pissing on it." Uh, so yeah, um, and then David Staples then tries to be right and goes, "This happened generations before any of us were born. Why dwell on it? Is your goal to make us all feel bad about Canada?" And then he goes, "What a lazy take." This is Fred Delory again. "But since you asked, I dwell on it because my ancestors were ripped from their homes by force. If that makes you uncomfortable, good. History isn't there to coddle you; it's there to teach you. This is what we keep on saying about residential schools. So I'm hoping that this type of attitude from Fred Delory, like this, would permeate throughout the whole conservative movement when we talk about past wrongs having been done to Indigenous people or past wrongs having been done to Black people. Africville, for example, right? So when we, or slavery, because there was some slavery for a while, or when Saskatchewan um, uh, was um, le bercail, the words are coming to me in French today, sorry, the cradle of the KKK in Canada, right? It's not dwelling on past wrongs in order to make, uh, to fit into some victim movement, right? It's as Fred Delory says here, because it has something to do with our ancestors that goes from generation to generation. Yes. And people should be able to talk about the history of their families without some people to whom the history is not related, because it's not their family, piping in and deciding to have an opinion and centering themselves into this. Right? This seems to be a thing on that side of the political spectrum, just like Danielle Smith did with that report in Jasper. She centered herself in the middle of that, right? And said, "Oh my God, I can't believe you attacked us." This is some guy, columnist, that turns around and said, "Oh my God, we're talking about the great upheaval. Everybody talks about it all the time." Like, to be totally honest, I almost never hear of commemorations from the great upheaval in my entire life. I've never this is the first time I've seen it get this much attention, right? It's not like there's been this heavy political movement for years and years and years saying, "Oh my God, this terrible thing happened to our family in 1755, and yeah, we demand reparations," or this type of stuff, right? Or, "Oh my God, all you English people are terrible." Right? There's no movement, big movement of francophones in Canada uh, on that. It's just not a thing. So we have this guy, David Staples, who decides, "Oh, it's Le Grand Dérangement. Okay, somebody, white Anglo-Saxons did a terrible thing back in 1755, and somebody's talking about it today. So I'm going to insert myself into that conversation on a day of commemoration and say, 'Why are you trying to make me feel bad about being a white Anglo-Saxon?'" It's like, nobody's trying to do that. Just why are you so thirsty for attention? So yeah, it's just but the concept that history isn't there to coddle you, it's there to teach you. It would be nice if that line of thinking was universal to any type of subject of this type when we commemorate something terrible that happened, when we take some time to remember. Anyway, not sure why it is that David Staples this year decided uh, to make himself the victim as he's complaining about a victimhood movement. But yeah, there you go. He decided to do that. It didn't work out well for him. Didn't work out well for him. There were some other people. Bruce Anderson, a man I respect very much, uh, turned around. It was like, Team Delory, Team Delory on this one. But for our friends, nos amis acadiennes et acadiens, uh, sorry that we didn't talk about that until today. Um, to be, but to be totally honest, again, other than having learned about it in school and read a book about it, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but a great book about it. Actually, it was a fictional story, but set in that time, and it's one of the classics of Canadian literature. And hopefully, I will remember the title before the show ends, so I can tell you what it is. But other than reading that book, and having taken a visit or two down there, where I've gone to some place, where they talk about it like a museum or, um, or a tourist attraction of some kind. I never hear about this issue ever, ever. I mean, so much so that when I saw The Great Upheaval written, I actually had to Google it because I didn't know what it was called in English because I studied this in French. Going, The Great Upheaval, what's that about? Oh, the God, yeah, I go, okay, I know what that is. So, I mean, it's not like there's a movement at all. So yeah, very weird that Mr. Staples would decide to take this issue and try to score some types of points for the white grievance movement based on it. Just really weird. The other thing that more yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, yep, if you live in Newfoundland and Labrador, or as Todd Matlin had this wonderful short video apologizing for having called Newfoundland the wrong thing all these years. He says he now knows that it's called Labrador in the other place. But if you're in the other place, yesterday was the 207th Royal St. John's Regatta. And it's always a big event there. And since we have a little bit of a story here from CBC, let's take a look.
In St. John's, Newfoundland, the city's annual regatta got underway earlier today. Widely known as the largest garden party in the world, the event draws tens of thousands to the shores of Quidi Vidi Lake. The CBC's Jessica Singer is at the start line with more.
It is the 207th annual Royal St. John's Regatta here on a beautiful day at Quidi Vidi Lake. Gorgeous sunny day, perfect weather for rowing. As we know, this is one of the oldest organized sporting events in the entire continent throughout North America, and it's also the only civic holiday in Canada that is dependent on the weather. So fortunately, the sun is shining bright here today. This is about so much more than just rowing. Throughout the day, around 50,000 people head to the Quidi Vidi Lake to enjoy in so many different festivities with family and friends. There are international food vendors, local fish and chips. We have the classic carnival food, cotton candy, my favorite, popcorn, candy apples, and I know that the youngsters like that the most, but they're also here for the rowing, cheering on their loved ones from the sidelines.
I don't know a lot, but I know she practiced a lot and she's really strong.
This year is, of course, different from previous years because we are celebrating in July. The regatta is typically held on the first Wednesday of every August, but because of the Canada Games happening in St. John's next week, the event has, of course, been moved to July. There's also many other firsts happening at the regatta this year, including the first co-ed race on the waters. Jessica Singer, CBC News, Quidi Vidi.
If you've never had an opportunity to attend, I would Sorry, didn't expect another video to start there in the background. So if you've never had an opportunity to go to the regatta, it seems like it's a wonderful time. I had a chance to go to Newfoundland once for Canada 150, but we had missed. We had gotten there before the regattas and left before, so we didn't get to see them. But that's always a wonderful day here in Canada. So if you have an opportunity to go to Newfoundland and have the opportunity to schedule it at the same time, do so. It's a wonderful day. Okay, and while that clip was playing, I was looking for the book here, and uh, the best that I have here is called in English Evangeline, A Tale of Acadie, uh, which was translated into French by Pamphile Lemay in 1865, but it's written by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Uh, it tells the story of Evangeline and Gabrielle, a couple separated during the deportation and their subsequent search for each other. It's a cornerstone of Canadian literature and a powerful narrative about the Acadian experience during the expulsion. I believe that that's what the book is, the one that I'm remembering. I just cannot remember the title in French. Uh, Unfortunately. So, yes. Uh, Hopefully it will come to me. It will definitely come to me, and I'll be able to give you the correct title of it. But um, if you ever have the opportunity to if you're a bookworm and you do like to read and you like some good reading, I was a teenager and the book captivated me. So and, teenagers are not typically I'm not talking about all of them, but at least when I was a teenager, I weren't rushing to read historical fiction novels. So I was a bit of a precocious kid, but a very, very good book. And yeah, like I said, hopefully before the end of the show, I'll be able to find the actual title in French and be able to get it to you. But I believe that it is the story indeed uh, of this of the story of Evangeline and Gabrielle. And I'm not sure here if this thing here is I'm mentioning here is merely a poem or whether or not it's the actual novel. Yeah, no, it is a novel. Okay, Evangeline, a Tale of Acadie. So Evangeline, Histoire d'Acadie, perhaps. If I'm doing a literal translation, but I will keep looking for it and hopefully I will find it for you. So yes, two big events, two definitely on the Canadian calendar that we wanted to give mention to today. Also, uh, since I did not do it yesterday, I am going to do it today because Mr. Grizzly had a couple of words for you that he wanted you to hear. We is talking a little bit again, I believe, about how things are going and with the new job and showing you some gratitude and some thanks, but has a couple of words to say about this whole thing, about this Sean Fucht guy who was coming from the United States. And I keep on saying that I'll play something at the end of the show, and then I get to the end of the show and it's time to roll the credits. So instead of waiting, I'm going to do this first. That way, Mr. Grizzly gets his airtime, and then we'll get into some other topics today. So here for you, kids and cubs, is a little dose. Grizzly.
So, hey, kits and cubs, I need you to answer a question for me. Who is this Sean Fucht guy? I've never heard of him before, but apparently he's a hateful preacher of some type. I understand that he tried to have concerts across the country and they were all canceled, and now he's screaming at the White House saying his rights have been violated, except he's preaching hatred against the LGBTQS plus community, the trans community, amongst other things, I'm told. I don't know a lot about this guy. I've never heard of him before, but apparently he's a big deal somewhere in the southern U.S. and the Bible Belt, I'm told. And now he's whining and complaining that he doesn't get to preach his hatred. It's under the guise of Christianity that he likes to gallivant about the country and say, you know, I'm here to save you, and I'm a good guy, and the gays are bad, and this guy's a piece of shit. He's an absolute piece of shit, and he's got a criminal record that goes back quite a number of years. There's a story here I'm looking at from something called the Boys Report. I have no idea what that is, but it says here that his criminal record raises integrity concerns. Popular worship leader and political activist Sean Fucht lamented in his 2016 book, Integrity, Character of the Kingdom, that we as a generation have lost our integrity. Yet a review of criminal and court records revealed that Fucht has a history of minor criminal offenses, including one in which he apparently tried to deceive law enforcement. A detailed law enforcement report obtained by the Roy's Report, the Roy's, not boys, Roy's, sorry. The Roy's Report, TRR, shows Fucht asked a friend to withhold key information from police. Then when an officer asked Fucht what he did, Fucht reportedly denied it, but the officer had seen text evidence, the report states, and Fucht eventually pleaded no contest to illegal hunting in a baited area. I understand he's also grifted a lot of money and avoided paying taxes. The guy is a piece of shit, and he's mad that he doesn't get to spread his message of hatred across our beautiful country. Well, sir, here's how it goes. You preach hate, you have to pay the penalty. And the penalty is, we ain't putting up with it. We're going to protest it, and we're going to tell you no every single time. So, Mr. Sean Fucht, get fucked. You're out of here, and so am I. I will see you later.
So there you have it, kids and cubs. Mr. Grizzly with, as our friend Lady Laura Babcock would call it, some strong opinions on Mr. Fucht or Fucht, or however you pronounce his last name. So there you go, kids and cubs. I don't necessarily disagree as a member of the fabulous. But yes, if you're watching the debate transpire, Mr. Fucht has left Canada and has gone back to the United States for a while. I guess there's a second leg of his tour. More permits are being canceled. I believe the city of Winnipeg has done it, and city of Abbotsford as well. And I was thinking about it more yesterday, and Mr. Fucht is still trying to play persecuted. And again, there's a lot of people in Canada that have decided to take this story and run with it and to try to score points of their own for a whole bunch of other stuff. There's a lot of people that are taking this story and then saying, oh my God, I can't believe he's not allowed to pray in the streets with what all those other people who happen to not be white are doing in the streets when it comes to Palestine. Oh my God. And it's like, yes, I don't know why you're mentioning that whatsoever. They're completely unrelated. And it dawned on me that there's an inherent irony because this guy's American, right? And in the United States, there was a whole bunch of people that were fighting for, if you remember, the right for bakers, people that have home-based cake making businesses, to not be obligated to sell a wedding cake to same-sex couples if they had deeply held religious convictions against same-sex weddings, because that would be giving your support to, quote, immorality, when it's nothing of the sort. There's nothing in the Bible, at least from the time that I was reading it, that says, thou shalt not sell a cake to a gay couple, lest you be guilty of contributing to immorality. Right? I remember judge not. I remember do unto others. I remember, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, why do you have a problem with people who manage something that provides a service, deciding who it is they want to serve or not. I mean, if to you, making a cake and somebody coming in and say, I want a cake, and that is it, that's where the contract, it's a contract. I ask a cake, you produce a cake, I pay you money for the cake, I walk away with the cake. What I do with the cake is none of your business, right? It's none of your business. Now, you know what the business of the cake is because it's a wedding cake and I've asked you to put 2 figurines of men on top of it. So yes, you happen to know it's a cake for a gay wedding because of the decorations, but I'm not asking you to come to the wedding. I'm not asking you to sanction the wedding. I'm not asking you to approve. I'm asking you to sell me a cake. Right? And I said, well, I can't do that. It's contributing to immorality. Okay, well, what if I ask you for a cake and I intend to take it home and eat it all myself? Is that not gluttony? Are you not supporting my immorality then? What if I ask you to bake a cake and I intend to take it home? And let's say I intend to poison a slice and serve it up to someone. Have you contributed to my immorality by baking the cake and selling it to me? Right? So, what the person does with the cake, once they get the cake, is not of the business of the person who's making the cake. That transaction is somebody comes into your business, asks for service, is willing to pay you for it, and you provide the service. And you do not let what you think about the person or what it is that the cake is for determine that you're not going to make the cake. And you have no constitutional right to be a baker if you do not want to be in a job that's going to put you in a position to do something that you consider supporting immorality. Don't go into that line of work. Right? If you're a doctor and you do not want to help someone who's having a pregnancy that has gone wrong by terminating the fetus to save the life of the mother, perhaps don't be a doctor. Perhaps that's not the line of work for you. Right? So you literally have a situation of people wanting to have their cake and eat it too. It's like, I want to be a baker, but I only want to sell cakes to certain types of people. It's like, and then people turn around and go, well, it's a private business. And this is bureaucrats administrating public space. It's not the same thing. It's like, how? How's it not the same thing? That private business operates in open public space. By law, you're not supposed to discriminate who comes into your shop and asks for a cake. I'm sorry, we don't sell to you because you want to use it for a gay wedding. What's the difference between that and saying, sorry, but we don't serve blacks here? So somebody who supports someone providing a service, but not to those people, suddenly has objections to people here in Canada saying, yes, this is a public space and whatnot, and we like people here, but not if you're going to do that. Not if you're going to do that in our space. So clearly, this person does not have a problem with people who provide services not providing services to certain people whose values they find objectionable. I'm not sure what the big deal is. Of all people in the world, this guy has the least right to be upset. Because what's happening to him is something he supports being done to others. He just wants the right to dish it out, but not ever take it. Well, I'm sorry, honey, but again, when you come to Canada, you're a guest in our home. And you're walking into our home and you're purporting to tell us how to live. Canadians don't take kindly to that. So hopefully, now that you're on your side of the border, you might find it not as attractive to want to come to Canada to finish the second leg of your tour, and you will stay home. That would be very neighborly of you. Just saying. Now, this guy, Sean, fuked or fucked or whatever, decided to insert his nose into this decision by Canada to join its counterpart from the UK and France in terms of announcing that an imminent recognition of the state of Palestine. And he decided to tweet something that Donald Trump said, and while stating, "This is not good for Canada." Okay. Again, continue your obsession with Canada, I guess. But this is what Donald Trump decided to tweet in response, or truth, or whatever it is he does. Wow, Canada. Wow, Canada has just announced that it is backing statehood for Palestine. That will make it very hard for us to make a trade deal with them. Oh, Canada. Okay. Number one, the O is wrong. And again, this again is a statement for domestic consumption for the base of the MAGA base. When you take that and you pass it through the Beavertron 3000, boop, 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 at the other end, it's like, oh, darn, it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to make a trade deal with Canada by August 1st. So here's this handy little thing that I could put out as an excuse for me not being able to get it done. Canada decided it's going to recognize Palestine. So therefore, oh my God, I can't make a trade deal with them. Except for I just made a trade deal with the UK, who also did that, and I'm not going back on my word on that. You would think if this prevents him from making a trade deal with Canada, it would certainly invalidate the trade deal he just made with the UK. Wouldn't it? And if Japan decides to join the world community on this, didn't he just sign a alleged trade deal with Japan? And he just signed one with the EU while France is there. France is like, France and Germany are the two biggest countries in the EU. Does that invalidate his deal? No. It's just Canada all of a sudden that he has a roadblock with because we decided to do that. It's all performative. It's all performative. This is IQ 47 telegraphing that he doesn't have a deal, or might not have his deal, with Canada by checks watch tomorrow. And, well, nothing's ever his fault because he's the smartest, bestest, knows the most about everything. Nobody knows more about making deals than him. He's the bestestest at making deals. He even wrote a book about it, about the art of it. Right? Pretext. Oh, big bag, evil, nasty, mean in Canada. Oh my God, they decided to recognize Palestinian statehood. I just cannot possibly make a deal. I just can't. I can't. My morals, or no, I don't have any of those. My sense of propriety. No, I don't have that either. It's not credible. It's merely pretext. So, it's looking like there will probably not be any trade deal announced tomorrow, because he's found a way to chicken out from making one. Or another reason to delay was because Trump's favorite thing is to keep people destabilized. So this gives him the out that he needs, right? In order to do that, Prime Minister Carney also seeming to believe that there will be no trade deal by tomorrow because from the Canadian side, much more demure and thoughtful intervention in that Prime Minister Carney and everybody on the Canadian trade side is basically saying, well, if we don't have a deal by August 1st, we'll just keep talking. So preparing us for the fact that we're going to keep talking, but Trump, of course, can't just admit that he wasn't able to get it done. So he has to blame something. The other side has to be terrible or awful or nasty or mean in some way. It's interesting how the alleged greatest deal maker in the world can't seem to make a deal with nasty people. Might explain a lot, like his inability to stop the war in Ukraine after just one day, or bring peace to Palestine and Israel. Maybe. But it's not because he failed. Nope. Not at all. Because somebody did something nasty. All right. God. These people. They're exhausting. So, getting to the main issue here. This is from Marco Vigliotti from iPolitics. We have sorry, that's yesterday's article, I believe, which I had already read to you yesterday. So let's try this instead. Still by Marco Vigliotti, editor-in-chief of iPolitics. Prime Minister Mark Carney says Canada will recognize Palestinian statehood, but only if elections are held next year. Certain reforms are made, and Hamas agrees to not participate in a future government as well as lays down its arms. So there are 3 caveats here. But it gets a little more complex. If the conditions are met, Carney said Canada intends to recognize Palestine at the United Nations General Assembly next session in September. He also called on Hamas to immediately release all hostages taken in the October 7th, 2023 attacks against Israel. Quote, Canada will always steadfastly support Israel's existence as an independent state in the Middle East, living in peace and security. Any path to lasting peace for Israel also requires a viable and stable Palestinian state, and one that recognizes Israel's inalienable right to security and peace, Carney told reporters. The Palestinian Authority, which only controls the West Bank, has given assurances it would meet the conditions. Carney said he spoke to Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas earlier in the day. Hamas largely controls Gaza, though its grip on the territory has been weakened over the course of the 2-year war with Israel. Canada's announcement comes only days after United Kingdom Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced his government would recognize Palestine in September unless Israel agrees to a ceasefire in Gaza, allows the flow of aid to residents of the territory, and takes other steps to ensure peace in the region. So you can see the UK has different caveats than we do. Starmer also said Hamas must release all the hostages it holds, agree to a ceasefire, quote, except that they will play no part in the government of Gaza and commit to disarmament. That's, of course, that Hamas will play no part in the government of Gaza is also one of the conditions that Canada has here. But if we're looking at these caveats, right, what is the likelihood that Netanyahu and cabinet, some of whom are even more right-wing than Netanyahu is, will agree to a ceasefire in Gaza by September? What are the odds that they are going to allow the flow of aid to residents of the territory? The government of Israel seems perfectly fine with images of very, very, very emaciated adults and children circulating around the globe. The government of Israel seems to have no problem with aid workers, even from allied nations, only getting one meal a day because there's not enough food getting in to even feed them. The government of Israel seems to have no problem with people showing up for food drops, which are not controlled and it's just mayhem, whatnot, being shot and killed as they're trying to get whatever food there is. They seem to have no problem with that, and that's with all the world pressure that's already going on. And ICJ decisions and court cases and even its allies turning on them. Nothing so far has appeared to deter them. And I don't want to go down the negative route saying that nothing will. Maybe there is something that will switch it up. But we know that Netanyahu personally has other motivations that are very, very, very personal. And that so far, nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, has made him lose sight of his primary objective. So, does this mean anything in the end? Right? When it comes to Canada, when we're talking about our sort of caveats here, if elections are held next year, how do we hold elections next year in Palestine? Gaza is pretty much razed to the ground. So are people meaning like only elections in the West Bank, but not Gaza? That's possible, but then you have I saw an interview on Power and Politics with a diplomatic representative of the Palestinian Authority who has been stationed to Italy, stating, well, I mean, we're not going to have an election that doesn't include elections in our capital, East Jerusalem, which we can't do right now because we can't even fly a flag there. So it's nice to get a commitment to hold an election, but if the Palestinian Authority or some people are saying, well, we can't hold an election if we can't hold an election in our capital, then if there's no opportunity for an election, how does the caveat get met? So what kind of declaration is this really? Canadian position does get a little more complex, however. So we'll go back to the article and we'll get to that part. Carney held a virtual cabinet meeting earlier in the day on Tuesday to discuss the conflict in Gaza and U.S. trade issues. After the meeting, the Liberals held a national caucus call, as iPolitics exclusively reported, citing sources within the party. Soon after the announcement, Israel's ambassador to Canada said the country would, quote, not bow to the distorted campaign of international pressure against it. Israel had its typical reaction when this thing comes. They reject everything. We just reject it. And you're helping Hamas. And that's basically where it ends. Edo Moed said in a statement that recognizing Palestine, quote, rewards and legitimizes the monstrous barbarity of Hamas. The Conservatives also condemned Carney's decision as sending, quote, the wrong message to the world that violence and terror are effective tools for achieving political objectives. So again, you have the Conservatives in Canada who, if you've been paying attention, are all in 100% support for Israel. Israel can do whatever it wants, to whomever it wants, however it wants, and all of it is legitimate self-defense. And any modicum of criticism about the tactics being used is you being an anti-Semite for all intents and purposes. That seems to be the Conservative Party of Canada's position here. Quote, if the government recognizes the Palestinian state now, it is impossible that Hamas will not play a central role. Surely Canadians cannot support validating Hamas with the status of government. Nobody's talking about validating, giving government to Hamas here. This is a very disingenuous statement from the Conservative Party of Canada, and they know it. iPolitics and other outlets reported on Tuesday that Carney was weighing recognizing Palestinian statehood, and the issue was expected to be discussed at the cabinet meeting. France said last week it would recognize Palestinian statehood, but without conditions. French President Emmanuel Macron said Friday there was, quote, no alternative to recognizing the state of Palestine and intends to do so at the UN General Assembly in September. Now you have to understand, kids and cubs, that of all the member nations at the UN, 147 of them have already recognized Palestinian statehood. But a lot of the big players haven't. But 147, so 4 out of every 5 seats at the United Nations recognizes Palestinian statehood already. The Prime Minister's office said Carney spoke with Macron on Wednesday, and the two leaders, quote, discussed the rapidly deteriorating humanitarian disaster in Gaza, emphasizing the need for international cooperation to ensure peace and security in the Middle East. The Liberal government announced last week it was providing $10 million to support the Palestinian Authority's preparations to lead a globally recognized country that includes Gaza and the West Bank, as well as an additional $30 million for humanitarian efforts. So that's sort of like the broad outlines here. Now, it would seem that Canada's 3 conditions are not it doesn't seem that the Palestinian Authority needs to commit to having them done by September. It just has to commit, say we commit to doing it. And basically from the readout from the Prime Minister's call with the President of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, it says here, and this is from the Prime Minister of Canada's side of the discussion, the leaders discussed the rapidly deteriorating humanitarian disaster in Gaza. Prime Minister Carney reaffirmed Canada's commitment to a 2-state solution, an independent, viable, and sovereign Palestinian state living side by side with the state of Israel in peace and security. Prime Minister Carney shared Canada's intention to recognize the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025. He indicated that this intention is predicated on the Palestinian Authority's commitment to much-needed reforms, including the commitments by Palestinian Authority President Abbas to fundamentally reform its governance, to hold general elections in 2026 in which Hamas can play no part, and to demilitarize the Palestinian state. Prime Minister Carney welcomed President Abbas's commitment to these reforms. So it seems that all the government of Canada needed was for the president of the Palestinian Authority to commit to these reforms, and he said yes. So it seems, based on this, that the recognition of the Palestinian state is going to happen one way or the other in September 2025. Just because Abbas said, yes, I commit to these. But no actual plan as to when, where, or how these will happen, how the commitment goes from just a verbal commitment to a plan of action that is being implemented, a credible plan of action that is being implemented. There's also some other issues with regard to the fact that there have been no real elections in 19 years. So the president of the Palestinian Authority has been the president for the last 19 years because there's lack of election. And it would seem that in the last time that there was elections, if I understand this correctly, there was an opportunity for Hamas to run as a political party in that election, and Hamas won that election that time around. So Hamas at the time that last election did have the support of the Palestinian people because a lot of these movements like Hamas and Hezbollah and whatnot have their military wing, and then they have their political wing. And the political wing often goes into certain communities and does stuff like help with aid and social programs and that type of stuff to earn earn or to secure, I should say, the support of local populations for these types of things. So it's a complex situation, and the caveats seem to be there to indicate, well, we're not just giving this away, but since the president, all he has to do is say, I commit to meeting these caveats, and doesn't necessarily have to show any work in terms of moving towards that. And to be totally honest here, we're August 1st tomorrow, and the General Assembly is September 2025. I mean, how far along this path, even if he did commit with all his heart to making it happen for real, with a real plan of action, how far are we going to get between now and that General Assembly in September 2025? So it seems that the recognition of statehood here, unless the president of the Palestinian Authority says something that's absolutely wild, it's happening one way or the other. The readout with his conversation with Keir Starmer says here, and this was before this latest announcement, said the two leaders focused on the rapidly deteriorating humanitarian disaster in Gaza, as well as the United Kingdom's statement on the recognition of a Palestinian state. Prime Minister Carney underscored Canada's commitment to lasting peace and reiterated the imperative of an immediate ceasefire. He was clear that Canada remains unwavering in our call for Hamas to release all hostages and that Hamas can play no role in the governance of a Palestinian state. So again, we keep on saying here from the government of Canada can play no role in the governance of a Palestinian state, but that still doesn't stop conservatives and Pierre Poilievre by suggesting that some of that governance will go to Hamas, when nobody who's a player in this is stating that that's what they want. So there's some very, very deliberate torquing and distortion of the message by the conservatives. Again, taking this issue and trying to muddy it for their own personal political gain with seemingly no real care or interest for either people in Gaza or people in Israel. Because when you take words that people say, like this, take them out of their mouths, edit the words, and then restuff them into their mouths, and then respond to what you needed them to have said, rather than what they did say, the least of your concerns are the people of Gaza and Israel. You're not doing that to be helpful to them. You're doing that to help yourself. You're taking their tragedy and you're exploiting it for your own personal gain. Prime Minister Carney and Prime Minister Starmer also discussed the work ahead over the next few days and weeks to promote lasting stability in the Middle East, including working with the E3 and other partners to coordinate the path to peace. The leaders also discussed the need for international cooperation to ensure the urgent provision of humanitarian aid to starving civilians in Gaza. And then, of course, prior to that, on July 30th, Prime Minister Mark Carney also spoke with the President of France, Emmanuel Macron, about this. So there's obviously some coordination going on among the partners. And in the readout for this one, it said the two leaders discussed the two leaders discussed the rapidly deteriorating humanitarian disaster in Gaza, emphasizing the need for international cooperation to ensure peace and security in the Middle East. Prime Minister Carney acknowledged President Macron's efforts to advance progress on a two-state solution, including by recently convening the United Nations high-level conference on a two-state solution with Saudi Arabia. The leaders discussed next steps, building on the commitments made at the conference this week. And then, of course, another a statement about working closely together alongside the E3 and other allies towards this goal. So I'm going to take a look because E3, okay, this is what it means. It's the leaders of France, Germany, and the United Kingdom. So the two biggest players in the EU, and then the UK come together. So yeah. I just didn't know what E3 was and needed to look that up very quickly. So this is clearly somewhat coordinated. And for France, this is not to be at the forefront of this is not a new thing, because way back in June, way back in June, on June 16th, CBS News reported that France closes Israel's firm's Paris air show stalls, citing a ban on offensive weapons displays amid Gaza war. So, yes, France had basically an air show going on, and he they decided to put black walls installed around the stands of 5 Israel defense firms at the trade fair. And because those booths displayed, quote, offensive weapons that could be used in Gaza in violation of agreements with Israel authorities. So France has been a lot more proactive in taking first steps to send the message to the current administration of Israel that it is not pleased with what is going on here. They said here in the article, it goes on to say, an Israeli exhibitor wrote a message in yellow chalk on one of the walls saying the hidden defense systems, quote, are protecting the state of Israel these days. The French government, in the name of discrimination, is trying to hide them from you. French Prime Minister François Bayrou defended the decision, stating the French government's position was very simple. No offensive weapons at the arms exposition. Defensive weapons were perfectly acceptable. Given France's diplomatic choices, in particular the concern, or in any case, very great worries about Gaza, we could not show that there was a certain distance, which meant that we did not think it acceptable that offensive weapons were in a show like that. And as these offensive weapons were not withdrawn by the Israeli companies, we have temporarily, I hope, closed the stands. So yeah, and of course, the Israel reaction, as one could predict, President Isaac Herzog said he was shocked by the outrageous closure of the pavilions and said the situation should be immediately corrected. And well, whatever. And then said the French are hiding behind supposedly political considerations to exclude Israeli offensive weapons from an international exhibition, weapons that compete with French industries. This is particularly striking given Israel technology's impressive and precise performance in Iran. Anyway, right. So not new for France to be at the forefront of this, of publicly admonishing Israel. So in this case here, France went first, the UK went second. Now we're moving ahead. I haven't heard anything from Germany yet, the other E3 nation, with regard to that. Maybe their announcement will be coming in the next few days, or maybe they're going another way. I'm not exactly sure, but so far there hasn't been news about what Germany's position that have made headlines, like the news from France, the UK, and Canada at the moment. So it'll be very interesting to note what the other E3 nation has to say with this. Okay, I'm taking a look just 3 hours ago, so maybe that's why I didn't see it. 2 or 3 hours ago. Good thing I decided to do a little search here. But according to Bloomberg News, it says Germany opens the door to recognizing Palestinian statehood. Let's see, what else do we have here? See if we have any Al Jazeera. They're usually pretty dependable. Don't see anything here. All right, so let's take a bigger look here at the Bloomberg article. I was hoping for a more politically oriented publication in order to be able to have more in-depth, but Bloomberg is still rather reputable. Not sure how big it is on politics versus business, but we'll try that. Hold on a second here. Trying to open up the article here and having a little bit of difficulty. Okay, there we go. And it is not, it is behind a paywall. Okay, so let's find something else here. There we go. Uh, there we go. Let's try the Jerusalem Post here. Okay, and this is an article by Reuters that appeared in the Jerusalem. I'm okay with that. It's a news service, and those are usually more fact-based than opinion. Germany's Foreign Minister Johann Wadepool said on Thursday the recognition of a Palestinian state comes more at the end of the negotiations for a two-state solution, but that process must begin now, warning Berlin would respond to, quote, unilateral steps. A negotiated two-state solution remains the only path that can offer people on both sides a life in peace, security, and dignity, he said in a statement issued shortly before his trip on Thursday to Israel and the Palestinian territories. Quote, for Germany, the recognition of a Palestinian state comes more at the end of that process, but such a process must begin now. Wadepool's statements came after a host, France, the United Kingdom, and Canada all declared their intention this week to recognize a Palestinian state during the United Nations General Assembly, which convenes in September. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said he would formally recognize a Palestinian state unless the Israeli government takes substantive steps to end suffering in Gaza and meets other conditions. So, the UK is saying that we're going to recognize it in September unless, Israel, you do that. And if you do that, then we won't recognize the Palestinian state. So that's, again, a bit of a different angle on the discussion than what Canada and France. France is doing it without conditions. Canada has its caveats on its own, but it seems that all they're requiring from the Palestinian Authority is a commitment to want to meet those caveats and not any necessarily some firm action to do that. And then, of course, the article goes on here. On Wednesday night, Canada's Mark Carney also announced recognition plans, adding, quote, this intention is predicated by the Palestinian Authority's commitment to much-needed reforms. Israel has therefore thus far accused the nations of rewarding Hamas in their intention to recognize the state of Palestine, adding that such recognition would, quote, harm the efforts to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza and a framework for the release of the hostages, as per a foreign ministry statement. So it seems that there is some openness from Germany. Germany's foreign minister has basically said that Israel is increasingly isolated diplomatically over the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and the push by some countries to recognize a Palestinian state. That's, again, Johann Wadepool. Israel, quote, Israel is finding itself increasingly in the minority. And Germany has been one of Israel's staunchest diplomatic allies, but Wadepool noted, quote, in view of the open threats of annexation by some in the Israeli government, a growing number of European countries are ready to recognize a state of Palestine without previous negotiations. Last week, more than 70 Israeli lawmakers, including some in Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's right-wing coalition, passed a motion urging the government to impose sovereignty over the occupied West Bank. So you can see both sides are really moving in big, different directions. This is almost like a fork in the road moment here. Wadepool repeated Berlin's position, quote, that the recognition of a Palestinian state should come at the end of the process of negotiations. He did, however, sharpen his tone slightly by insisting that, quote, this process must begin now, and that, quote, Germany will also be forced to react to unilateral moves. So, yes, this meeting that Wadepool is going to have with his counterpart Gideon Sa'ar and President Isaac Herzog, as well as Netanyahu, might be a little spicier than was originally planned when it was put on the schedule. So there you go, kits and cubs. I believe that that's most of what I have on that issue for the moment. I'm just going to take a look at one more source for you, kits and cubs here, because we should, I've been looking everywhere here, but the CBC, of course, saving the best for last. Quote, the Prime Minister said, preserving a two-state solution means standing with all people who choose peace over violence or terrorism and honoring their innate desire for the peaceful coexistence of Israel and Palestinian states as the only roadmap for a secure and prosperous future. Let's see. Mona Abouamara. So she's the person I was talking to you about earlier on in the show, who's the former chief representative of the Palestinian General Delegation to Canada, told CBC's Power and Politics that she believes the commitments Carney set out are achievable. Quote, the Palestinian people have been living hell for 2 years. They know what they want. They need the opportunity to actually build their own state. The Palestinian Authority currently controls parts of the West Bank, though the Fatah Party, through the Fatah Party, Hamas governs Gaza. Neither territory has held an election since 2006. Carney said Hamas can have no role in the election he is proposing. He also reiterated that Hamas needs to release the remaining Israel hostages and said that Palestinian state must be demilitarized. Going on here. Carney said he had spoken both to Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron in recent days. Quote, in our judgment and the judgment of others, the prospect of a Palestinian state is literally receding before our eyes. Working with others to support the possibility of a Palestinian state establishes that prospect. Canadian governments previously said they would acknowledge a Palestinian state only after a negotiated peace agreement between Israel and Palestinian leadership. So similar to what Germany's position was before. The foreign minister seemed to open the door to changing that. But Carney said that approach was, quote, no longer tenable. So in other words, the situation on the ground based on decisions that the Netanyahu administration is making make it such that having to wait before there's a negotiated peace agreement between Israel and Palestinian leadership to recognize a Palestinian state is no longer tenable. And I'm guessing that the subtext underneath that is that the Canadian government has lost faith in the Netanyahu administration's desire to even want a peaceful solution or negotiated peace agreement. You know, if what we read in the previous article, if they're talking about taking control, administering the entire territory, that's the direct opposite of a negotiated peace agreement leading to two states living side by side, coexisting side by side. So if that is no longer on the table, right? If those chips are no longer on the international poker table at which everybody's cheating, as Beau of the Fifth Column and Belle of the Ranch liked to call it, then why is Canada sitting at that table and playing that game? Basically seems to be the subtext here. Carney said the ongoing threat of Hamas, the expansion of Israeli settlements in the West Bank, and the, quote, ongoing failure by the Israeli government to prevent the rapidly deteriorating humanitarian disaster in Gaza have spurred Canada to make this move now. The Israeli Foreign Ministry said its government rejects Carney's move. Quote, the change in position of the Canadian government at this time is a reward for Hamas and harms the efforts to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza and a framework for the release of the hostages. I don't understand that statement by the Israeli Foreign Ministry because, again, he says, and harms the efforts to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza. What efforts? What efforts? There are no efforts. It's the same thing as Putin out there with Ukraine. Trump is talking to him all the time and wants peace and gets mad at Putin every now and then. But Putin says, yes, peace, but first I want to reach out. First I want to achieve my objectives. Your objective is to crush Ukraine completely and take it all over. That's not acceptable. So if you're saying, yes, we want peace, but first I want to achieve my objectives, you don't want peace. Because your objectives are completely counter to, again, Russia and Ukraine living side by side in peaceful coexistence. You don't want that. You want to absorb Ukraine. You have the Netanyahu administration saying this harms the efforts to achieve a ceasefire in Canada, while at the same time it seems that they're declaring No, we're just going to take, the only way for us to keep safe is for us to take this territory over completely. That's not peaceful coexistence side by side, right? So yeah, I'm not sure what the basis behind the statement is. Again, these statements are usually for domestic consumption for the base of the base. And if you interpret it that way, they're still trying to maintain that fig leaf of semblance that, oh, yes, we're willing to negotiate that. But they're not. Everything else that they're doing and saying is showing that they clearly do not. Noah Shak, CEO of the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs, said in a news statement on Wednesday that Carney's decision, quote, is predicated on misplaced faith in vague commitments by Abbas. Extending recognition absent real change on the ground is a recipe for another failed Palestinian pseudo-state controlled by terrorists. That is a comment that I can understand the basis for its existence, and it's much more temperate than the one from the foreign ministry. That's a topic and a comment that I can engage with and ask about. Say, yes, given that we're doing this just based on a commitment, but, not based on real change on the ground, what does this mean in real life? I have questions about that. How does this really work? That's a legitimate avenue to go and discuss. Well, legitimate's the wrong word here. That's a plausible statement that allows an opening for further discussion, an exploration of concerns that's not being sent into hyperbole. Because you're seeking to reward Hamas. Nobody's seeking to reward Hamas. It's like, if you open with that, that's just bad faith. But does recognizing the Palestinian state based on a commitment, but with any real change on the ground, a recipe for success or not? That's a question that you can get into and that you can explore. So I like this position here, where you're asking a question to which everybody can say, you know what, that's a damn good question. Let's explore that. Let's unpack that. More than 100 advocacy groups have been warning of hunger spreading in Gaza as the ceasefire negotiations stall. Israel, which controls all supplies entering Gaza, denies it is responsible for food shortages. Then who is, if not you? If you control all the supplies entering, how can anybody else but you be responsible if not enough is entering? Again, it's just, I don't understand the positions here. Carney was asked how likely it is that elections could be held given the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza and the heightened tensions in the region overall. Quote, much has to happen in order for a democratic, viable state to be established in Palestine. We fully recognize that. We're committed to help work as part of that process, but I'm not in any way or shape minimizing the scale of that task, and hence those commitments of some money in order to be able to help bring that along from the Canadian government. Carney was joined by Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand, who announced $10 million to accelerate reform and capacity building for the Palestinian Authority earlier this week. Anand's announcement was made at a major UN conference convened by France and Saudi Arabia to find ways to preserve the two-state solution. The Conservative Party said in a statement that it supports a two-state solution, but also said Carney's decision is a, quote, reward for Hamas. So basically, the Conservative Party of Canada are taking the talking points from the Israeli Foreign Ministry and just basically repeating them. Quote, a unilateral declaration of Palestinian statehood without peace negotiations or renunciation of violence destroys the path to a lasting two-state solution. Worse, it legitimizes terrorism by handing political rewards to a group that rules Gaza through fear, oppression, and brutality. Now, you see, in that statement, had they stopped after the first sentence, a unilateral declaration of Palestinian statehood without peace negotiations or renunciation of violence destroys the path to a lasting two-state solution, that's something somebody can work with. But worse, it legitimizes terrorism? No. No. Nobody's seeking to do that. And that's where the conservatives lose me. They always take it that extra step. Nobody wants to legitimize terrorism. If we can't start with that as a fundamental principle that everybody agrees on before we enter into this conversation, what is being proposed is a bad faith conversation. That's that same thing that with Sean Fuchs saying. It was like, oh, so you're opposed to people praying and you're okay with it, people praying in the streets unless it's Sean. It's like, no. I mean, personally, I don't recommend praying in the streets. You might get hit by traffic. But if we're talking about praying in public, I have no problem with anybody praying in public. Well, I've never seen anybody but Christians pray in public, so I guess that's what you mean. Well, I've been to a Blue Mountain ski hill, and I've seen a bunch of Muslims bring out their prayer mats and pray there. Nobody batted an eyelash. Some people looked, upon it with a little bit of curiosity. It's like, oh, look. It's like, just because you have never seen people who are not Christian pray in public doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means you weren't there when it did. And if your starting premise is that only Christians are persecuted for praying in the streets, my guess is that you're probably nowhere near around people of other faiths, particularly at a time when they pray. So how would you know? Right? It's an invitation to a bad faith discussion, right? Nobody has problems with this guy praying. We have a problem with what he's preaching. If he was just gathering a whole bunch of people and saying, hey, let's go to this public park and pray, and all they did was pray, and not pray for terrible things to happen to people or for people to be excluded from having rights, but just pray, like most people who do pray, nobody would have an issue. Also, if you filed applications to get permits for public events, which has nothing to do with praying, that would also help. But hey, when you're nailing yourself to a cross, who cares about details, right? So yeah, these types of statements from the Conservative Party of Canada are just an invitation to a bad faith discussion. Because if you start with the principle that there's any political party in Canada, I guess at least of the major ones, that wants to embolden or encourage or legitimize terrorism, as far as I'm concerned, I'm sorry. Yawn, click, goodbye. You've excluded yourself from the conversation. NDP MP Heather McPherson said she welcomed Carney's decision, but said it should have been made sooner. Oh, not fast enough. Oh, God. She also called on Canada to do more to end the humanitarian crisis in Canada. Quote, it should not have taken the Liberals this long to make this decision, and it should not take until September to implement it, McPherson wrote in a statement. Again, this Heather McPherson person seems to be like someone who is going to throw her hat in the race for the NDP leadership. As far as I'm concerned, she shouldn't bother. Every time I see a statement from her, particularly on this issue, she just shows that she's not serious. She's just not serious. I can't take this seriously. You should have done it faster, and it shouldn't take this long to do it. Thanks for your help. Quote, the Liberals should recognize the state of Palestine today while also taking the political action necessary to end Canada's complicity in this genocide. In the past week, a number of Liberal MPs have called on Canada to follow France's lead. Toronto MP Salma Saeed and Montreal MP Samir Souberi said in social media posts that Canada must join France in announcing its recognition of a state for the Palestinian people. Faris Al-Soud, who represents the Toronto area riding of Mississauga Centre, said on social media that justice for Palestinian people, quote, demands recognition. Last fall, dozens of MPs from the Liberals, NDP, Bloc Québécois, and Green Party joined an international call for the recognition of a Palestinian state. You'll see that all parties, MPs from all parties, joined that call, except MPs from the Conservative Party of Canada. So they have their political decision, strategic or values-based, is 100% pro Netanyahu, pro-Israel, and nothing else is being considered. Every other party has MPs that see that it's time for some movement on this. And you can expect that the Conservatives are going to hammer this and hammer this and hammer this and hammer this distinction to try to turn people away. And again, in Canada, if we're talking about pure real politic here, there are more Muslim Canadians than there are Jewish Canadians in sheer numbers. There just are. So the Conservatives here are playing very hard to a smaller base that they want to capture. And if we're talking about young Canadians, as we showed in some previous polling here, a lot of support for the recognition of Palestine and for condemnation of Israel happens to be coming from younger Canadians. So the Conservatives were really trying to make inroads with younger Canadians, and they will probably lose some with this tactic as well. I'm not sure why it is that the Conservative Party of Canada insists on pandering so hard to Jewish Canadians, particularly, again, when we've seen with past decisions, when it comes time to put their vote where their mouth is, they keep on betraying that community. Which brings me back again to the night of Pierre Poilievre's big vote-a-thon in the House, which he didn't remain for. He let everybody else do his dirty work, in which the Conservative Party of Canada voted against funding a Holocaust museum in Montreal and a Jewish community center in Vancouver. They voted against that on the same day that Pierre Poilievre went to a Hanukkah, first day of Hanukkah, lighting ceremony, and then to a fundraiser. So he didn't have to sit in the House and vote no to everything all night long, while his party members did and everybody else, including Jewish MPs who were forced to miss first day of Hanukkah lighting ceremonies. But Pierre got to go, though. He got to go. But he cares about you, Jewish Canadians. He's fighting for you. He's your guy. So long as you don't ask him to do anything that's not performative, so long as you don't ask him to put any money behind it or a vote behind it, oh yeah, he'll support you. Hopefully, I guess he's hoping you'll send donations for that support. But when it comes time for him to vote for money to help Jewish Canadians or to build something, again, like a Jewish community center, he disappears. He's not there. He votes no. It's pandering of the worst kind. It just is. I understand that Pierre Poilievre is saying things that a lot of Jewish Canadians want to hear. Because in all of this, we cannot lose sight of the fact, right, that October 7th did happen. There's a lot of people in this country who are of Jewish faith, who have friends and family and relatives over there, and are afraid. I have a friend that was in Israel for her birthright visit when the latest skirmish between Iran and Israel happened. She had to go to a bomb shelter. I'm sure she was very scared. I'm sure her parents and family here at home in Canada were very frightened and very concerned. There are things happening in Canada, right? Incidents at schools and synagogues and stuff. Incidents of increased anti-Semitism and acts of hate happening here that should not be happening. We should not be treating each other more poorly over here because there is stuff going on over there. But that is happening. It's a real thing. And we are a pluralistic nation. We have to make sure that we are taking care of all people and taking into the considerations the concerns, real concerns of all people. The Conservative Party of Canada doesn't seem to want to do that at this particular moment. They don't want to consider everyone. They've clearly picked a side. And they are shamelessly exploiting it politically. And that can't be to the benefit of the whole of Canadian society. There's just no way it could be. If you think the protests in the streets are bad now, if you don't like the protests, if you happen to lean more conservative, and they annoy you, and you want people deported, or you keep on bringing them up anytime someone else protests of either another related religion or race, whenever Indigenous decide to block a street or a railway, say, oh yeah, it's okay for them to do it, but it's not okay for us, right? Comparing them to the convoy, for example. It's like, there's an entire different historical context there, but all you're doing is limiting it to the color of someone's skin or the deity to whom they pray. And that's where it ends for you. Again, you're not proposing a good faith discussion. It's just whataboutism. And it's unhelpful. It doesn't move the ball forward for anyone. And it doesn't show concern for anyone who's actually being affected by what's going on. All it is you putting yourself at the center of things. I don't know, man. Okay. Kids and Cubs. A couple of updates on some other stories before we go forward for the rest of the day. At the World Aquatics Swimming Championships, 2 more medals for Canada. The first one comes from our medley relay team, mixed medley relay team, I should say, who earned a bronze medal. So that was our 5th medal in Singapore. Kylie Mass, Oliver Dawson, Joshua Luendo, and Taylor Ruck combined for the 4 times 100 meter medley relay and took bronze place, finishing in 3 minutes 40.9 seconds, just ahead of the Netherlands. And that was a bit of a surprise medal for Team Canada, but a good one. And according to Devin Haru, a much needed one because we've been having a bit of a tough time with the relays. So this win is great. And for Oliver Dawson, it's really great because it's his first ever World Championship medal. So congratulations to him. And then, of course, if you remember the Olympics, there was a Frenchman, Léon Marchand, who was the male star of the swimming competition. Summer McIntosh was the female star, but he set a new world record in the men's 200 fly semifinal. So that's good for him. And apparently there was a 400 meter race as well. The men's 400 meter race where the difference between gold and silver, I think, was like 2/100ths of a second. It was a really exciting race. But today, just before we went on the air, Summer McIntosh has now made it 3 for 3, winning her gold, I believe it is, in the 200 meter butterfly, which will make her mom very happy because I believe, if I remember correctly, her mom competed in the Los Angeles Olympics in 1984, and the 200 fly was her event specifically. So mother surpasses daughter here in terms of getting a world championship gold. So that's 3 for 3. I believe the next one on the list is the 800-meter race, and that will be a big one. I was talking to my physiotherapist yesterday, actually, because he's I have the good fortune of having a physiotherapist who happened to have been a member of the Canadian Olympic team in Barcelona in swimming. So whenever there's some swimming going on, we get to chat a bit. And I had competed a little bit at the masters level when I was younger. And the masters levels world championships will be going on in Singapore immediately after the actual world championships. So, I mean, masters level is still a big deal, even though it's not Olympic level. And yeah, he was talking about that, and it's Katie Ledecky. It's going to be a showdown between Katie Ledecky again and Summer McIntosh, and Summer McIntosh won it in the 400, but Katie Ledecky just won, I think, her 6th world championship gold in the 1500 meter the other day in a very impressive style. So it's going to, and was sending a little bit of a message because at the 800 meter mark, she wasn't that far off in that race from her world record mark, and with still 700 meters to go. So maybe there was a sending of a little message to Summer, not so fast. So the 800-meter race is going to be the marquee event, which is kind of interesting because 800-meter races are very rarely the marquee event of any swim meet, but of this one it will be, because that's the one that will determine whether or not Summer McIntosh has a chance of being successful in her drive for 5. But so far, she's doing the work, 3 for 3, and racing smartly. In terms of her qualifications and attempts to beat world records and all that kind of stuff, trying to preserve as much energy as she can to make sure that she gets the 5 for 5 and saving world records for another time. And saving wanting to finish first in heats for another time as well. So far, her strategy is working and working well. And we'll see where it goes, but I'm very excited for that 800-meter race when it does come along. Let's see, what else do we have here for you today, kids and cubs? A little bit of update as well on things having to do with the reduction of tolls on ferries and across Confederation Bridge. There are 4 ferry routes that will be affected by this change. Will be the route from PEI, the ferry route between PEI and Nova Scotia, between PEI and Les Îles de la Madeleine, between St. John, New Brunswick and Digby, Nova Scotia, and from Nova Scotia to Newfoundland. The tolls will be frozen at this lower rate for 7 years. So to end in 2032, and that coincides when operating duties for the bridge, Confederation Bridge, revert back from private interests, a company called Strait Crossing Bridge Limited, back to public interests, which could usher in the elimination of the tolls altogether, which is something for which the Premier of Prince Edward Island has been fighting. He's happy that it's being dropped from $50 to $20, but what he would really like to see is a total elimination of the tolls. The current reduction is estimated to cost about $100 million a year to the Treasury in order to be able to achieve that. Also, yesterday, both the U.S. Federal Reserve and the governors of the Bank of Canada had announced that they were standing pat on interest rates in the United States. There were 2 dissenters, which is the first time that has happened since 1993, and one of them, the dissenters, is viewed as someone that is highly touted to replace Jerome Powell and be nominated by Trump once his term ends. There was some other news from the United States about GDP for the second quarter being up Q2, so no recession officially, in that Q1 was down, and everybody was expecting that Q2 might also be down, and 2 consecutive quarters of contraction is an official recession. However, that puts economic growth in the United States at 1.2% for the year. So it's a lot of people are taking this 3% number and going, see, we're doing great. Well, no, not really. For the first half of the year, it's only 1.2, which is pretty low growth. And a lot of these numbers, you have to be careful because there's much disruption in them in terms of people buying a lot of things in order to get inventory stocked up prior to tariffs, and consumers making some big purchases earlier than they might have, which spurs some economic activity to get ahead of tariffs before they are actually imposed. So these sort of overloading on inventory or buying things early in one quarter because they know what's coming in the next one creates some disruption in the numbers, so that you can't actually look at them as basically straightforward numbers in normal economic activity times. So it's you can't just go by the top line number. You have to dig in a little deeper to find out what it is, what it means. On trade, we mentioned that the United States, with us, the deadline is tomorrow, but has signed allegedly 2 other deals. Again, more announceables than there are deals with India and with Korea. So we'll see where that goes. 25% on India, I believe. Not sure what the amount is on Korea. But at the same time, Trump tacoed when it comes to China, announcing a 90-day truce. So again, we have no idea what will be here in the store for Canada, because a couple of days ago Trump said it's August 1st and it's August 1st and we're done pussyfooting around. That's what it's going to be, August 1st, and there'll be no negotiations, no take backsies and all that kind of stuff. And then we got a 90-day truce with China. So yeah, again, as consistent as Jello, kits and cubs. With all the registrations in for Battle River Crowfoot, it would appear that we have 214 candidates total for that race. That's going to be quite a night. But yesterday, when I was showing you clips from the debate, I forgot to show you one of the most important ones, which were their closing statements, in which Bonnie Critchley nailed, hit a home run. I can't believe I forgot to show it to you. I got to the last question, presented the answer, and then forgot totally about the closing statements. So kits and cubs, one day delayed, but for your viewing pleasure. And this will send us over the 2-hour mark a little bit, but that's okay, because it was my bad for not presenting it to you yesterday. Let's take a look at now. You will notice in that whole section, Padiev speaking at the end in his closing, that he used a lot of his first 2 minutes by trying to have like some type of mini stand-up comedy routine, thanking Damien Couric, thanking all these people, all this kind of stuff, but not really saying stuff about what mattered to the region and the people, and then got in late trying to rattle some things off. Some of these things are a little bit more local issues. Some of them are things that he's trying to make fit, like the EV mandate. Nobody's going to stop people from driving their cars, right? That's not a thing, right? There's nothing in the EV mandate that says that on this date, all of you who have cars who are gas powered have to surrender them. We're going to come at your door and we're going to come and collect them, and you can't drive them anymore, right? But he keeps on trying to frame it that way. So some of these things are not local issues. Some of the things are, when he's talking about, working to try to eliminate the tariffs on canola. That's particularly more of a local issue, or that prison guards in Drumheller, allegedly, according to him, are not safe, that they need to be kept more safe. Okay, those are a little more, but even if those issues did require national leadership, it doesn't mean that it has to be you. I'm just saying, and judging by that closing statement, you're not really abreast of the issues enough to talk about them more than just mentioning them passing in a rattled off list. Right? So my impression of his entire performance, and again I say performance, is that it was rather arrogant and entitled, and that it smacked of I don't care about you, and I don't really care about your issues because I can't speak to them. I find that he was unprepared. I find that he just decided to go there and wing it. There were other things about body language and behavior throughout all of it that didn't show he was there for any real serious purpose. He didn't comport himself, right, like everyone else there. Nobody else brought in buses of supporters. Nobody else were, shifting in their seat like he was, or rolling their eyes, or when people were saying things, or trying to crack jokes to the side to other people. I mean, there was some conversation side by side to candidates when other people were talking, but it was like, for him, he was there for the party. Well, that one has levels, actually. He was there for the party. He was basking in the adulation and the applause. But it was, I believe, as Catherine Swampy, who was the representative, I believe, from the NDP, somewhere during the debate, highlighted what the audience was doing, and saying everywhere he goes, it's a circus, which got her boos, of course, from the members of the sorority of barking seals, or fraternity of barking seals that had showed up and had decided that they were going to clap, and that got her booed by the same people who had brought in to clap. So, I don't think it was a good performance in any way, shape, or form. I don't believe that it sent the message, I'm really seriously here to represent you. I mean, I know I lost my seat, and I'm coming here a little bit tail between my legs. But, if you place your trust in me, I will work every day for you. And I've proven it by spending all the time since here and talking to people here and finding out about your concerns. And here's what I've learned from you. But that was another way he could go, but he didn't. It was just phoned in stock answers, trying to fit in a lot of stuff from his stump speech and just delivering it, and behaving like Bonnie Critchley said, like he's assuming that their support for him is assumed, that he doesn't have to earn it. It's lazy. It's lazy. And for a man that works hard, but at all the wrong things, as I keep on pointing out, this was lazy. Now, Kits and Cubs, we get to Bonnie Critchley and what it is that she had to say when she closed it off. And she found a very, very smart way of pointing out a certain fact.
Bonnie.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bonnie Critchley. I just want to thank the Chamber of Commerce, our moderator, all the candidates for coming out and stepping up, and all of you folks for at least coming out and making some noise. What I would like to say is that this is our home, this is our riding, and while we're sitting back in the back, I believe it was Jonathan and Darcy and I were discussing a certain old folks' home that we all know, because we live here. Out of curiosity, who here can vote? Yeah, that's kind of my point. We live here. This is our home. And we sure as heck don't want to be doing this again in January now, do we? So I have no personal aspirations. I'll say it again. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I don't want to do this. I was enjoying my retirement from the military. But it is important to me that we have a voice in Parliament. I firmly believe that Monsieur Poilievre is too busy with his own personal ambitions to give a rat's backside about us. And with him facing leadership review in January, are we doing this again in February? So, my name is Bonnie Critchley. I am not here for any personal aspirations. I am here for you. I am here for my neighbors. I am here for all of our communities. Together, we can make our mark on the map, and we can stand up for ourselves.
Thank you, Bonnie. Jonathan.
There you go, kids and cubs. Bonnie, oh my God, just nailed that closing. And again, compare and contrast to what Pierre did. Very elegantly, by asking that question, getting people to raise their hands. Based on some statements online from people who seem to, I can't ascertain because I didn't talk to them, but seem to have been in the room. Not all the hands in the audience went up. Not all the hands in the audience went up. And when they didn't, it kind of illustrated her point. You see the hands that are not up? That's where all the applause was coming from the boos. There's a lot of people in this audience that came to watch this debate who can't even vote here. Sorry, candidate forum, not a debate. Who can't even vote here. Why are you here? Why are you interfering with the stuff that's going on in our home? And she did it so well that if you looked at the body language, you can see three of the other candidates around her. Mr. Abraham, who again has positions that are very outside the range of the ones espoused by this show. And then Jonathan, who she was talking about, who is the representative of the PBC, and Michael Harris on the other side of her, who was the Libertarian candidate. Libertarian candidate was actually banging on the desk with his hand at a couple of things that she said. Other people were nodding their heads like, yeah. And asking the question, are we doing this again in February? If Pyapelyev doesn't win or wins with a low enough margin that it costs him his leadership, are we doing this again in January? Let's do this just once. Don't vote Pierre. Your best way to make sure that we don't do this more than once is to not vote Pierre. Vote for someone from who lives there, who's going to speak about, as she says, quote, our home. Because this is not Pierre's home, which is the subtext here, because he doesn't live here. He doesn't know us. He's using us. And he's acting as if your vote is assumed. And for those who were listening and not watching, somewhere in there, because Bonnie Critchley is always wearing her black cowboy hat, and took it off and put it on the table, a sign of respect to the audience in making her closing statement. As Pierre was standing up and making a tired dad joke about people being outstanding in their field. I'm just... The contrast couldn't be more clear. Hopefully, Bonnie will have some success there. And one of the ways Bonnie does know that her campaign is going well is because it appears that she ran out of signs. And she needs to have some more. So much so that she actually had to make a little bit of an announcement about it, kids and cubs. Let's put that up for you. Yeah, we've run out of signs, but they'll be in stock again soon. I take that as good news. If you have had signs printed and you have distributed all of your signs, and there's still about 19 or 20 days left to go in the by-election, you might be doing well. There were 10 candidates there. There were many of them that were not happy with the fact that somebody was being parachuted in, even if they had political positions that were way across the spectrum from each other. Bonnie Critchley is not lying when she's saying that there are a certain number of people in that riding who are, quote, choked, that the, quote, angry guy from Ottawa is being parachuted in. Fingers crossed, Canada, that Bonnie can get it done. I would like to see her win the seat, but if not, as she mentions, if she does do enough damage such that Pierre is done politically, I won't cry. I certainly will not cry. All right, kids and cubs, that's all I got for you today. That's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we loved making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really love it when you do, when you share our content and add a little word or two of yours. It makes all the difference because you are influencers in your own circle, and there are people who trust your opinion and your judgment. So when you share our content and you say, hey, I highly recommend this, whatever it is you say, that is flattering and complimentary when you share it. It makes a big difference. That is advertising we cannot buy. So thank you so much for all the positive word of mouth. Now, kids and cubs, if you would like us to help you a little bit because you want to get your daily dose of beaver, but you might be very, very busy, things to do, people to meet, right? Well, don't worry, because thanks to the generous support of the Ray Girl kids and cubs, boom, if you scan that QR code, it brings you to our pod page where you can find the ears-only version. So we're portable. Take us with you. Podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. When you go there and click subscribe, we come to your favorite podcast feed. It's that easy. So thank you for subscribing. If you would like to help us in other ways, kids and cubs, I'm sure you would make Kits Elaine and Kits Cassie very, very, very happy if you should go to the True North Eager Beaver Incorporated YouTube page and click on our buttons like, share, and subscribe. Please smash away. And if you're watching live, remember, if you smash now, you don't have to remember to do it before the show ends. So please smash on our buttons. It helps with the algorithm, and plus, it gets us a little bit of happy when you do. So thank you for your support. We love seeing our numbers go up, 20,200 right now. So let's keep growing. Let's see where this baby can go, all right? Kids and cubs, as well, if you would like to support us in other ways, it's the end of the month. Rent is due. Got to pay them bills. So if you would like to support us with helping us with the costs that we incur to bring this show to you because you like it and you support it and you want to encourage us to do more, we will certainly be very grateful as we accept a tip. And I haven't done this for a while, but here, I'm going to shake it for tips right here. There you go. Contribution to the Beaver Lodge's Emergency Hydration Fund. The cup is back, kids and cubs. Rescued it from the dishwasher. Where every day we fight the scourge that is dry beaver. So if you would like to do your part to keep your favorite beaver moist, the little contribution to our tip jar does the world of good. And you can find it at our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. Or you can scan that QR code that has just appeared up there. And we thank you for your enthusiastic expressions of encouragement. Every little bit helps. And if you are buying Canadian kids and cubs, well, hey, have we got a deal for you? If you make us a direct bank transfer rather than going through our coffee page to our email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, well, that is a win-win for everyone because, one, the CE Tech Bros from the US don't get a cut of your money, and 100% of your donation goes to us. And you get to buy Canadian, so you get to feel good about your donation as well. not only because you're supporting us, but because you're supporting Canada as well. So thank you so much, kids and cubs, for your kind generosity. And we also want to hear from you, especially if you're not able to donate, then please, we do enjoy very much the gifts of your participation and attention. And truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is the email address where you can write to us to let us know what you think. Good, bad, or ugly, please be gentle. Constructive criticism is always welcome, however, and please know that all of your comments and all of your donations do go back into the show in order to make it better. And kids and cubs, if you want to reach us via our socials, via our and rather than our email, then at trueeager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, as well as on the Jitter, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook, or right here in the chat section if you happen to be watching on YouTube, either live with the DAMFAM or at your own convenience. Leave us a little something. We do read everything, even though we're not able to get back to everyone. And we do appreciate your contributions very much. Because democracy is something that you do, kids and cubs. Some good news for those of you who are in Alberta and want to remain in Canada. It would appear that Mr. Thomas Lukasik's question for referendum for the Citizens Initiative action has been approved by Elections Alberta, and he has gotten permission now to move forward with the collection of signatures. It looks like he's going to need something like 293,000 of them, a little more than that, in order to be able to get the question approved to go to a vote. Meanwhile, Danielle Smith and alleged Minister of Justice Mickey Amory are trying to lead a public charge to get Elections Alberta to do something else or whatnot, but they're there or to bring it to court or something. I don't know what it is what they're trying to do, but they're trying to interfere in a certain way in order to get the pro-separatism question also approved in some way. But there is a rule that only one question of a certain type of nature can be approved at any one time, and once it is, any other questions related to that cannot be presented for 5 years. So even though Danielle Smith says that she is not pro-separatism at all, seems to be leading a charge for the other question that asks, do we want to separate rather than do we want to stay united, to be able to be the one that is, or at least have a chance to be on the ballot when it's supposed to be first come, first serve. So I'm not sure what it is that she is doing with that, other than doing this wink, wink, nudge, nudge, sending a signal to the base that she's with them, while still out of the side of the mouth that she wears on her other face, claiming that she supports a full united Canada. But signatures are available now. So if you go to www.forever-canadian.ca, and if you live in Alberta, you can put your name there to help volunteer donate and to help them collect signatures, because they're allowed to recruit agents that will go out and try to gather enough signatures. But I think there might be some legal things that you need to sign if you want to collect signatures as a canvasser and help that way, so that those signatures can be accepted. So there you go, and you can also click there to make a pledge to sign the petition. So I'm guessing that the petition isn't ready yet. But if you would go to that address, Kits and Cubs, and I am going to put it up here on the screen for you. Let's see if that works. It does work. Yay. Okay, so that's how Mr. Grizzly does it. Yay. I finally figured it out. So again, forever-canadian.ca if you live in Alberta, because unfortunately, it's because it's an Elections Alberta initiative, petition signatures and canvassers and all that kind of stuff from outside Alberta are probably not going to be accepted or being able to count towards the nearly 300,000 signature total. But I'm sure that in a population of 5 million Albertans, there are at least 300,000 of them, or 293. We'll probably need more than that, however, because I'm sure that Danielle Smith is going to do everything that she can to try to delegitimize a lot of these signatures to make it such that the referendum question doesn't get asked. So not only does Mr. Lukasik and Forever Canadian need about 290,000 to 300,000 signatures, but probably a whole lot more, because you're going to have to sign that petition in numbers too great to manipulate, because we know what kind of person Danielle Smith is. But I am sure that there are certainly 350,000 Albertans who love Canada enough to be able to put their name onto a petition saying, yeah, I would like, if there's going to be a referendum, that the question be on whether or not we stay together and not whether or not we break apart. So there will be more details about that. And of course, we have a gentleman's agreement with Mr. Lukasik to appear on our show when he has more things set up and more things to announce. But it seems that the movement has taken another step forward, and this is real. So it's time to get your pens and papers ready. And like I said, because democracy is something that you do make a pledge to sign the petition. And if you're in Alberta, please volunteer to be a canvasser, because that's the best way. If everybody gets a few signatures from the people in their circle on their own and then sends them in, many hands make light work. Let's put it that way. Kits and Cubs, words of wisdom. You know what? I think I just said it. Many hands make light work. So if there's anything out there for which you need help, do not be afraid to ask for help and ask for what you need. My beaver sweetie did, and that's why I'm helping him, making sure that his preparations for his trip will be taken care of, and he'll be able to leave with a well-rested mind. So if there's anything that you're working on and you just happen to need a little hand, ask for it. And if someone is asking you for a hand, if you can help, why not? Right? I like to live according to that. If I can help, I will, is usually my answer when people ask for help. All right, kids and cubs, it could be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And now, at the count of 3, if I may ask for your indulgence just a little more, would you, kids and cubs, please, with one unified, forever Canadian voice, please shout out so I can hear you all the way here from the Beaver Lodge. Mr. Beaver, please cue the cog on 1, 2, and 3. Oh, you really did it all in unison. Not one stray voice. Everybody was exactly on time and on beat. I like it. Therefore, I must serve. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. Just before we go here, I see that Kit Elaine is bringing us a little update here about Danielle. She has added stipulations that the signatures need to get witnessed, apparently. So, not sure if that's a legal thing or whether or not it's just a Danielle thing, trying to add another hurdle. But as you can see, it's already starting. She's already trying to manipulate. So, eyes wide open, kits and cubs. All right. And with that, I'm gone. See you tomorrow. Mwah. Amour et bisous.